All right, what's good, guys? Arzim Vasugian here with you for our pre-game live chat. Monday Night Football, yes, the first of two Monday Night Football games this year for the Chiefs. Obviously, they'll play the Patriots later on in the season, but for now, we've got bigger things to worry about. The Philadelphia Eagles Super Bowl rematch. I think I saw on FS1 earlier today that this is the first Super Bowl rematch between two teams where both of them have the best record in the NFL at the point where they're playing each other. I think the Broncos and the Panthers had a Super Bowl rematch in week 1 to open up the 2016 season, but that was they both had an 0-0 record. So Super Bowl rematches are always interesting because there's obviously, that whole thing of revenge. Obviously, the Eagles are coming in with wanting to kind of, not necessarily, I don't want to say fix whatever wrong they had in that Super Bowl last year, but they obviously want to find a way to say, hey, look, yeah, we can beat this team after all, and we can do it again later this year if we have to play them again in Super Bowl 58 in Las Vegas. So I think there's definitely some of that from the Eagles coming into this game. Obviously, everyone knows about the whole field complaints and all that stuff and shit that I don't really get into because you guys know me, I'm not an excuses person, not one bit. So at the end of the day, hey, the Chiefs won that football game, and I think the Chiefs will prove once again why they were the team that won that game. And let's not forget something. Everyone talks about the field and all that stuff. It was 24-14 at halftime. Nobody was talking about the field then. It was only after the second half. That's when it became a big deal, when the Chiefs, scored on every single drive in the second half. It's always funny how that works out. But nonetheless, I'm excited. I think you're going to be facing an Eagles team that isn't as dominant and as scary as they were last year. They're definitely a much more different team than what we saw back in February or all of last year, really. A team that led the league in sacks by a wide margin, too. Chiefs were second in the league in sacks, so there was a big gap between 1 and 2 in that category. To me, what I want to see is the Chiefs be able to not only utilize the passing game, which I think they have been doing that, but finish drives. Improve on the red zone scoring. Go out there and put up 20-plus points in this game this week because the offense hasn't been doing a lot of scoring, even though they're just outside of the top 10. But by Kansas City standards, that's not a good thing. They definitely need to be better about that. They can be better about that. I'm hoping with this bye week, in the last 2 weeks, Andy Reid and the rest of this coaching staff and this the players, the offense, they have figured some things out. They've tried to figure out what has worked and what hasn't worked and try to utilize that in this game. And I've said this for a while. I'd like to see Andy Reid be more creative, but there is also such thing as getting too creative or too cute, as some people like to call it. And I think Andy Reid has done some of that with his play calling this year. So hopefully the Chiefs can find that nice little this balance, this happy medium where, yeah, you go out there and you play your style of football, but you can also go out there and maybe have a little bit of fun, do some trick plays. And I think that's the thing with this Chiefs team is, are they playing at the level that they should be playing at now? No. I know Andy Reid reminded the media earlier this week or last week, at this point, rather, since we're playing Monday night, last Monday, said that, hey, look, reminding to the media, Kadarius Toney had knee surgery. It's like, okay, I get that, but if he's still recovering from knee surgery, how much, him playing, is that the right move or not? I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a player. I don't really go into those things in great detail, but I will say this, the drops, I don't think that has anything to do with the fact that he had knee surgery. Not at all. And I think he has shown some flashes this year. And I say some, that's actually too generous. Very few flashes. And we know that this is the reason the Chiefs have not given up on Kadarius Toney is because they know this guy can do a lot of special things. We saw it last year on short notice, coming in the trade midseason, made some big plays right away for the Chiefs. Yeah, he got hurt sometimes, but still made some big plays. Obviously, everybody remembers what he did in the Super Bowl with the punt return, Also the touchdown, which that was more of a really good play call than it was the execution, but still you got to have the players execute that at the end of the day. And Kadarius Toney did his part in selling that play and getting that wide open touchdown. So the ability's there with Kadarius Toney. I'm not questioning that, but I think, and I think Kadarius Toney had a knee surgery similar to what I had in July, which is very, very minor. I mean, you can start walking around the house the next day. If you want to go out for a walk in the park, you can do that the following week. My thing is with KT is, where are you on this path? Did this bye week help you kind of recover and get to a point now where you can start playing at a level, basically prove why the Chiefs traded for you? That's my biggest thing coming into this one. Here's my biggest fear for tonight's game is the rushing attack. I think the Chiefs, the past couple of games, have definitely struggled with the run. Now, I will say this, the Denver game, I'll cut the defense a little bit of slack there because turning the ball over a million times never helps whatsoever. The interceptions from Patrick Mahomes, the fumble from MVS, the fumbled punt return from McCole Hardman deep in their own territory, that never helps. And Denver essentially, Russell Wilson did not have a magnificent game against the Chiefs. Yeah, he had 3 touchdowns, but go look at his completion percentage in that game. The total completions he had and yards he had wasn't anything, it's not like Russell Wilson was impossible to stop. What was hard to stop in the last 2 games was a rushing attack. And you guys heard me say this after the game in Germany against the Dolphins. I was actually surprised the Dolphins kind of let up from the rushing attack because Mostert, I thought, was having a phenomenal game on the ground against the Chiefs in the fourth quarter. Generally speaking, defenses do get tired and get worn out as the game goes on. So it would not surprise. I think it's going to be a close game from start to finish. I really do. And it would not surprise me if the Eagles try to use DeAndre Swift a lot in the fourth quarter. Keep that in mind. That's the one thing. Like, if you take anything away from this live stream, keep that in mind, that the Eagles will go they will go run heavy with DeAndre Swift. And I think that is where Kansas City's defense is going to be tested the most. A.J. Brown, listen, the Chiefs have played great against some of the best wide receivers this year. Tyreek Hill, obviously very recent. The big story, of course, for obvious reasons. Played well against him. Keenan Allen played well against him. Justin Jefferson, I know he left the game early with an injury, but even before that, the Chiefs really weren't letting him do a whole lot of anything. The number 1 receiver for the Lions. The Chiefs have done a pretty good job against some of the top-notch wide receivers this year. And here's another one in A.J. Brown. And I think, I'll say this, if you've done well against all these other wide receivers, odds are, you should be able to do well against A.J. Brown too. At the same time, when you go up against this many receivers, I guess odds are at some point, one of these receivers will have a good game. But I will say this, because given the situation right now in the conference with the Ravens, right on Kansas City's tail right now, obviously Baltimore Ravens fans, they are the biggest Philadelphia Eagles fans right now. And if you're a Detroit Lions fan, you're obviously rooting for the Chiefs big time in this one to cut that gap in the conference. So not only is this a big game for Chiefs fans and for Eagles fans, and obviously it's a Super Bowl rematch, so any football fan that cares about the sport and follows it very closely is definitely going to be paying attention to this one. But also, there are some other teams out there, some other fan bases that are watching this with very serious rooting interest. So I'm very curious to see how that goes. By the way, Kelsey, it came out today. He is going to be on the front cover of the Wall Street Journal magazine. I'll be honest, I did not know the Wall Street Journal had a magazine until today. So, hey, very cool. He did do a big interview with them, talking about a lot of things and discussing Taylor Swift, of course. That's obviously the big thing that everyone talks about with him, and a few other things, including retirement, which I definitely wanted to get into here. So in this interview, I don't want to get into it too much because I'll let you guys read it for yourselves, but he essentially talked about the 10 surgeries he's had, and he feels all of them to this day. Listen, I get that. And again, I'm not an athlete, but I will say this, someone who's had multiple knee surgeries on the same knee. I get it. And again, I'm someone who's not an athlete, who doesn't play sports. So I can completely understand from Kelsey's side of thing. And Jason Kelsey opened up about this in the documentary. It's like, Jason Kelsey in the doc talks about he has arthritis in so many different parts of his body. And when you watch him do the tush push, okay, obviously as the center and the guy that Jalen Hurts is going right behind, Jason Kelsey's on the bottom of every single one of those damn piles. Like, the more I see that, the more I realize I can understand why Jason Kelsey is seriously considering retirement the past couple of years, because of everything he goes through and just how tough it's been for his body. Offensive linemen, obviously they're up there in weight, and that's a lot for those ankles to carry. So that is something to consider. But obviously, circling this back with Travis Kelsey, this guy's already had two injuries. I was about to say two surgeries, two injuries this year. And I think, I don't want to speculate, but we all know Kelsey has a big future in the entertainment industry. Okay. Obviously he hit it out of the park with Saturday Night Live. Everyone was raving about it. He signed with an agency shortly after that. He's done a hell of a lot more commercials now than he's done in the past. So many things going in Kelsey's way right now. So it's like, listen, and I don't doubt that the guy loves football. I'm sure he's talked about in past interviews. He's always talked about how he can do this for many more years. But what's changed is he's last made those comments. 2 injuries this year, and he's 34 years old. So that's definitely going to play a role 100%. Again, I'm not someone that likes to say whether or not someone should retire. That's not my place to speak. Retirement is a personal thing. And when people do retire, it is their last time doing what they love to do. So something they've worked hard for so many years to get to. Obviously they've made a lot of money out of it. So it's not like, we're having this pity party for them, but it is still a passion that they're going to be walking away from. But I think, when you just consider Kelsey has had so many injuries and surgeries, I look at the injuries I already mentioned this year. Yeah, I can understand why Kelsey is contemplating retirement, because this guy's listen, if it wasn't for the 2 injuries, he'd probably play for at least 3 or 4 more years. Because I think this guy has the potential to go out there and break every single tight end record out there when it comes to career receptions, receiving yards, touchdowns, those kinds of things. But the injuries are kind of catching up to him a little bit. And this is a guy that has hardly missed any time. He missed his entire rookie season. Since then, I think he missed 1 game due to COVID, and he missed the first game of this season. Everybody thought he was done in the Minnesota Vikings game, but man, he came back strong and just went off on the Vikings. I shouldn't say went off, but man, for a guy dealing with the ankle injury that he had, played pretty damn well, better than most would. And I think his tight ends coach was interviewed as well in this article, and talked about how this is a guy who has fought through so many injuries in his during his career. I don't know. Obviously, a lot of you guys, I'm sure, recall recently we lost Bob Knight, the legendary Bob Knight. Kind of for like nostalgic reasons, I went back on YouTube and I watched Night School. I don't know if you guys remember Night School. It was a 6-episode series where they basically had 16 guys try out for the Texas Tech basketball team, and the winner got to be a walk-on. And they really put them through the ringer, going through all these drills, practices, and even outside of the basketball court. So the things they make them go through to test them mentally and physically. And in that interview, the tight ends coach was talking about how Travis Kelsey mentally is one of the tougher guys. I know a lot of people talk about sports and how physical sports are. Yes. But there's also this big mental side to athletics. There really is. I remember when CM Punk was going from WWE to UFC, he said that he was approached by Chris Weidman. For those who don't know, Chris Weidman, former UFC middleweight champion, one of the best fighters to reach the middleweight belt, dethroning one of the best fighters of all time in Anderson Silva. And CM Punk quoted him saying that, this whole sport is 90% mental. And I understand MMA is so different because it's a one-on-one, whereas football, it's a team sport. But still, in that sport, Both sports very physically demanding. So, you know, you hate to see a guy like Kelsey step away, but shit, man. All the legends have to leave at some point. You don't want to see it, but you can also understand it. So it's tough, man. It's tough. The day Travis Kelsey is done playing football will be one of the saddest days in Chiefs history. We've had some sadder moments where we've lost guys, but outside of that, when it comes to players hanging it up, man, you don't even want to think about that. Like that alone just kind of makes you feel a certain way. So, hey, man, I've always said, do what's best for you. Whatever. Kelsey, again, I'll say this: the guy's got a bright future in the entertainment industry. It's far less demand. Let me make a comparison here. You guys all know who The Rock is, okay? Obviously, the guy who just dominated and really his popularity soared when he was in the WWE. Well, what happened when he had that popularity? Hollywood called in. Hey, let's do The Mummy or The Mummy Returns, whatever it was. And then let's do Rundown and Gridiron Gang and the Tooth Fairy of all things. But that industry is far less physically demanding. I know WWE is also different because those guys travel all the time, and that can really screw with their mental psyche. And there have been a lot of stories about that on Joe Rogan's podcast. Joe Rogan's had a lot of wrestlers on his show lately, and they've actually talked about that kind of thing. But my point is this: The Rock, very smart, walked away from WWE and said, I gotta, do what's best for me and think smart. So, as a WWE fan, as someone who watched The Rock growing up, it's like, I hated that. But now as an adult, I look back at that moment, I'm like, yeah, I get it. I would probably do the same thing. And I bet every single WWE wrestler would do the same thing if they had the opportunities The Rock had. So I've made that comparison before between The Rock and Travis Kelsey. And I think that, you might see that pretty soon. What did you think of the Chiefsaholic documentary? Yeah, I saw that this morning. There wasn't a lot of groundbreaking information in that documentary, and maybe it's because as Chiefs fans, we follow that whole thing very closely. The attorney's interesting, very interesting guy. He's very certain that his client did no wrongdoing. Okay, I mean, we'll see, I guess. But here's the other thing to keep in mind with that. It's like, so they interviewed Chiefsaholic. It was a written interview, and the attorney read the answers. And at one point, he's asking fans to not be judgmental and to quote, be understanding. I don't know, man. Listen, I've even seen people justify what he did. And I get the whole like second chance thing. I believe in second chances, but the guy, was caught, agreed to be, on house arrest. And he not only bolted out, but he went and robbed 2 more banks. It's like, what are we doing here? Come on. Hey, listen, let me just say this, and I'm not here to make this a Dr. Laura Schlesinger type of show, but there is a difference, in my opinion. There is a difference between mistakes and constantly doing the same wrongdoing over and over and over again. Like, come on, guys. That's just me. Listen, I've heard nice things about the guy. It's just sad that that's what was done for him to get the fame that he has. So, listen, the idea that someone needed to rob banks to fund premium seats, like, the idea is funny, but it's not funny when you think about, the trauma that these people go through. And I know people are not making excuses, but justify, it wasn't a real gun. Yeah, but the bank tellers don't know that in the moment. They don't know that. Hey, Gabriel, what's up? What's up, Michael? Justin says we have to do that tonight. The receivers need to catch the ball. Yes, amen to that, Justin. Get open, or it's going to be a long rest of the season if they can't fix those issues. Yeah, that is going to be the Chiefs' Achilles heel. Here's my biggest fear. Like, so many things are going right for the Chiefs, except for the receivers. my biggest fear, and this has happened before, it's like if the receivers get things right, and I trust they will, not very confident, but I'm going to trust that they will because Patrick Mahomes is the guy and Andy Reid's the coach. So odds are they'll figure it out at some point. Something's going to fall apart at that point, like the defense or something. I don't know. I hope not, because the defense has played well. But I remember in 2013 when the defense was carrying the offense during that 9-0 start, and then the offense finally picks it up, and the defense is allowing all of these points. Like, come on, can we just get a balance one time? Hello, Maria from Independence, Missouri. Shout out to Independence. North KC, Natalie. Okay, I see you. Jeff's excited for this game. Yeah. Linda's hyped. 34-27. I love it, Marcy. 2017. Okay. Yeah. We're seeing scores from all over the place. And I think Patrick Mahomes even said, like, this could be high scoring. This could be low scoring. You never know with a game like this. Dave, I see you. CEH, KT, and Sky Moore should all be on the injury report for oh boy. Dan, come on, man. It's Monday Night Football. We're trying to be positive here. Rice and Cook, yeah. Justin Watson has been a good surprise this year. When he was brought back, everybody for whatever reason just remembers that one game where he had two wide open drops. Like, okay, he had two wide open drops. Now let's look at his overall body of work. He's done a really good job as a depth player, and I think this guy should honestly be a number 2 receiver right now for the team because the Chiefs don't have a lot of viable options unless guys start stepping up. Gonna skip over a few comments here, guys. The game tonight will be the most watched program ever. Yeah, this is something I'm very curious to see because I guess Taylor Swift's not there. I have not followed this story. Apparently something happened with her concert that she has to make it up to tonight, which means Travis Kelce's not going to have a good game. I don't know. That's according to the experts, the statisticians. But I do think that ultimately, the whole like Taylor Swift's parents and Travis Kelce's parents, that's gonna be a big thing. I don't know. I guess that'll be enough to get the Swifties to tune in because Lord knows they have really helped NFL ratings this year, especially Chiefs games. I mean, you all see Travis Kelce's jersey sales. I don't need to get into it. Travis made it clear multiple times early in the New Heights podcast days he is going to play out his contract and retire, take care of his body, pursue. Yeah, and listen, someone might say something a month ago, and that can always change instantly. And I'm not knocking on the guy for it. Like, it's a demanding sport, and when you go through 2 injuries before the halfway point of the season, shit, it's like, I get it, man. I totally get it. Danny says, let's go. Tony, what up? Christopher, what's up? Steve, what's going on? Justin, I see what you're doing here. You're doing the Colin Cowherd flip right there. Yeah, this is going to be interesting. Like, the Chiefs defense has already played great this year against some great players and great offenses, really. This would just be another feather in their cap. It really would. Like, if the Chiefs can just do it again defensively, on Monday Night Football too, and no one's going to be saying anything about the Chiefs defense. Like, the Chiefs defense could go out next week and allow 30 for the first time all season, and hopefully the Chiefs find a way to win that one. But if they do, hypothetically, we can look back and say, well, yeah, they allowed 30 to the Raiders, but they also held a lot of these other teams in check. Hopefully that doesn't happen. The Raiders are pretty damn bad this year, so especially offensively speaking. All right. Well, there's that. I was a big fan of The Rock. Like, I still remember my dad taking me to a WWE SmackDown event. It was like 3 days before No Way Out with The Rock and Kurt Angle. And The Rock just comes out and everyone's going nuts in Kemper Arena of all places. Yeah, this is the thing, man. Like, I watched Jonathan Coachman, who is from the state of Kansas and worked for a news station in KC. He talked about this on a podcast recently, talking about how wrestlers are like not just wrestlers, but also the people behind the scenes. I know their job is not physically as demanding, but they're all working and traveling 52 times a year. They're traveling every week. I could not imagine that lifestyle. I really couldn't. Um, like whenever wrestlers have opportunities outside of the ring, yeah, it doesn't shock me that they take them. As a younger wrestling fan, when I watch, I'm like, man, why is The Rock not coming back? Now it's like, fuck, man, I get it. 100% get it. I used to like Colin Cowherd, but after his current prediction, listen, man, I get it. These are predictions. If he's right, got to give him credit for it. Listen, predictions are always funny to me because I'll have my predictions and people always get angry when I'm not wrong, or not angry, but I'll rub it in. That's why I always return the favor when I'm right, which is most of the time. Very few times do you guys get to let me know when I'm wrong, and we all know this. Air horns to that. Yeah. You know what I'm predicting? I'm predicting a defensive touchdown on this one. I put a little bet on that today. Let's see how that pans out. I'm worried about our run game against the Eagles' rush defense. Yeah, they've got the best rush defense in the NFL, Jim, but I got to disagree with you. I'm not too worried about it because I think Isaiah Pacheco will get some carries in this game. Don't get me wrong. I think he'll get about 10 to 15 carries. I think Jerick McKinnon will get a couple of carries. Maybe P. Ryan gets one or two, but I just can't imagine them not going pass heavy tonight. That's my thing. Greetings from, oh my God, Juarez, Chihuahua, Mexico. All right, brother. Dan, all the way in Mexico. Love it. Appreciate you joining. I love when people tell me where they're from, especially outside of the country. It's always cool to hear. They need more ball catching practice for sure because it's like they aren't clicking it. Yeah, Natasha, you are right. Springfield, been there once before. Have not. Need to make a trip back to good old Springfield. I got to be honest. I'm like catching up to your guys' comments. This is like from 5 minutes ago, so I'm not. Just look at his first name. He was living up to his name. He will always be talk shit. Are you referring to The Rock? Or maybe my comment about Chiefsaholic? I don't know. San Angelo, Texas. All right. Yeah, Texas. A lot of people from Texas repping. Let me just see. Ooh, Joey Bosa likely going on IR for the Chargers. By the way, breaking news, Kareem Jackson suspended 4 games for a second time for repeated violations on defense. Shocker. Shocker, I tell you. I don't care what the score is as long as we get the W, Joe. Yeah, I'm with you. Win's a win, no matter how you get it. Czech Republic, Martin. All right, I like it. I remember in high school, I guess this person was not as culturally literate, and they saw the words Czech Republic in a book. We were doing like out loud reading and shit. You guys remember school, how it was. And that student goes, Czech Republic. I'm like, oh, buddy, that is not how you pronounce it. Okay, we got off topic there. Unlike other equally competitive guys like Brady, he's got a new relationship and a new endeavor acting. He is actually about post-football. Yeah. Hey, and listen, look at Tyreek Hill. He said in an interview on 810 that he's retiring after his current contract with the Dolphins is over. I don't know if he's being serious. I mean, the guy can probably still play. Like, I would not doubt in 4 more years if Tyreek Hill can still run faster than anybody in the NFL. But maybe Tyreek Hill has other opportunities he wants to explore. Like, man, I mean, not that he plays for my favorite team anymore, but as a fan of football, he is good for the game. He's fun to watch. But if, he wants to step away from the game for health reasons and trying to make better choices for his career, his life, I get it, man. I'm not going to knock on the guy. I think younger fans might be like, really? Why? Like, come on, you can make millions of dollars. It's like, yeah, the millions of dollars that's all nice, but that's not everything at the end of the day. Oh boy, Elaine. Reed runs the ball on 3rd and short. Look, you have Isaiah Pacheco who can get a yard. Does he lose yards at the time? Yeah, even the best running backs have a run for a loss, but it's like, man, that guy's so tough. And if you just line up in the right formation, you can get a yard with Isaiah Pacheco. The guy doesn't go down without a fight. Yeah, this is the thing. Like Travis Kelce's toughness. I know we just talked about that with Isaiah Pacheco briefly, and I've always said this about Pacheco, but Travis Kelce, man, it's just a great player also. And let me say this about Kelce too. Like, forget about his skills and all the records and all the stuff that he's accomplished. I remember, I'll never forget 2017, the Chiefs draft Patrick Mahomes. Alex Smith gets off to a really good start that year against the Patriots. Everyone remembers that game. And then Alex Smith really takes like a big step back, and the passing game is not as good as it was early on in the season. A lot of people, including me, were just screaming for a switch. Like, let's switch to Mahomes now. And I remember the week of the Eagles and Patriots Super Bowl. It's weird. I remember this. This is when Donald Trump had his State of the Union speech. During that speech, the Chiefs and Chiefs and Commanders, word gets out that they've agreed to a trade, sending Alex Smith to Washington. And I remember Kelce immediately took to social media to just praise Alex Smith and just kind of, give him that nice little send off there. Which, it was kind of, that last year was frustrating with Alex Smith, but Kelce was like, I'm not going to remember him for that. We're going to praise this guy for everything he's done. Because remember, Alex Smith, yeah, of course, he was a big part of the team turning around. And it's just, that's the kind of thing that, I'll remember Kelce for so many things, but that's one of them right there. The guy always fights for his teammate. No pun intended. Fight for your right to party. But when the Cincinnati mayor said what he said about Mahomes, Kelce immediately took to the mic. He's like, "You jabroni, know your role and shut your mouth." So it's like immediately comes to Patrick's defense. I've even seen him like come to Jackson Mahomes' defense for all the backlash he takes. I know that's a separate topic for another time, but my point is, like, the guy always just loyalty is like a big thing to him. You can just tell the amount of times he's always just stood up for his teammates, the guys who have always been in his corner, which is cool to see. Very cool to see. Because a lot of times athletes just try to like stay quiet about that kind of. No, man, he'll speak up. I love that, man. I wish athletes spoke up more. I really do. How many sacks does Chris Jones get tonight? He's going to be hungry. Yeah, Chris Jones has been a little quiet the last couple of games. Him and Jason Kelce, shit, that's going to be the biggest battle. That entire line of scrimmage right there, like the Chiefs' defensive front versus the Eagles' offensive line, that is going to be the toughest battle for the defense all year. It is going. I went over it on the podcast. It is going to be quite the battle there. I know a lot of like casual fans don't care about that kind of thing because line of scrimmage play is not something a lot of casual fans follow. But if you're like me and you follow the X's and O's very closely, that is a fun battle to watch. That line of scrimmage battle. And I think the Chiefs side of things too. When the Chiefs are on offense and the Eagles are on defense, that line of scrimmage battle is going to be crazy too, with all the defensive guys the Eagles have. So it's going to be a very interesting one to watch. Would not shock me if both quarterbacks get sacked a couple of times. I know Mahomes is more elusive and is capable of escaping pressure more than any quarterback. Hence why the Chiefs in total have allowed fewer sacks. But that battle is going to be a lot of fun to watch. Would I ever host a watch party? I have. I really just watch with my family. I really do. It's just so like. I get invited to like sports bars with friends, and I've had watch parties in the past. It's just so hard to focus on the game, man. It really is. I'll have people over once in a while. Haven't done it in a while because of all of this stuff I do. It's just hard to have people over. and how much the page has grown over the years. Shout outs to you guys for making that happen. So it has been a little tough to do over the years. Bear with me one moment, guys. Give me just 1 second. Let me just post this on social media. There we. If I can get autocorrect to not beat me. Happens all the time. There we go. All right. Where was I? He is gonna feast on that horrible Eagles defense against the tight end. I will say this. I do recall when the Chiefs were getting ready to face the Dolphins, NFL Network mentioned that the Dolphins have allowed the 5th most yards from tight ends. And, unfortunately, Kelsey didn't really have that. So hopefully, he can definitely do a better job against other defenses, regardless how good or how bad they do against tight ends. 38-21. Oh, man, you're definitely going up there, Matthew. I love it. Rampage. What was Rampage? I'm Googling this right now. Rampage movie. I don't think I've seen that. Well, oh, okay. I've heard of this. I've been meaning to see this, but yeah, I definitely need to see that. Yeah, I feel like the movies The Rock has done lately has been good. I've yet to see what's that DC movie he was in? Black Adam. I've yet to see that. I've only heard bad things. I think it's funny, by the way, him and John Cena both now in doing DC movies. So, whenever they do the next Justice League, that'll be fun to see. Skip Bayless picked us to win and said the defense is amazing. Well, shit. If Skip Bayless said that, I think we're in for a long night. I'm kidding, guys. I'm kidding, but kind of, sort of. Okay, Lewis has a good point here about Nagy if we do bad offensively in this game. Let me bring something up here. I don't know if you guys, I posted the quote, but in the video, Connor Embry, the wide receivers coach, he faced a lot of backlash this past week, specifically on Friday, because Friday, about 3 days before a game. Yeah, that's when assistant coaches speak to the media. And Connor Embry, the wide receivers coach, usually it's just coordinators, but this past Friday, the Chiefs also had position coaches. And Embry, the way he just spoke, I don't know if he was having a bad day or if he was ill or what the situation was. The guy was not speaking with a lot of confidence. And some of the things that he was saying, too, about the receivers just didn't really give you it didn't give you a lot of optimism with the receivers. And again, I don't expect receivers to just throw their own players under the bus when they're struggling. And I also don't expect them to reveal much to the media. That I will just be open-minded about right now. But a lot of people were not really pleased just with his presentation in that. Again, I don't know if he was having a bad day or was just really nervous. He's a very young guy. In fact, so full disclosure, I don't know him personally, but I did go to the same high school as him. He was a year younger than me, so he's a young dude in an Andy Reid style of offense. One of the important jobs, which is the wide receivers group. Mahomes is going to be throwing to that group that Embry's coaching. So, shit, man, good on him. If you get hired by Andy Reid at the age of 29, 30, 31, and you get promoted eventually over time, shit, man, you're doing something right. You have to be. And his dad used to be the tight ends coach here in Kansas City when Tony Gonzalez was here. He used to be the head coach at Colorado. Been at a few different stops. His older brother, also coaches in the NFL. I think running backs for the Jets. But yeah, a lot of people just didn't feel good about that press conference with him. And I don't disagree with a lot of the criticism. But if things don't get figured out soon, because Nagy's done a good job before as an OC, it's not like he forgot how to be an offensive coordinator all of a sudden just because he was in Chicago. But I kind of wonder, if that's the one position Andy Reid looks at this offseason, if it changes to me, or maybe even before that. I think it may be a little too soon to speak on that, but if the struggles continue, I think that conversation deserves some attention. McDuffie will strip a receiver. AJ Brown's yet to have fumble this year, so if there was ever a time to give him his first, I suppose Monday Night Football tonight's the time to do it. Australia, Robert. All right, repping from down under. I love it. What do you think? What do you think if they move Rice to wide receiver 1? Well, if he's going to be wide receiver 1, that means he would probably need to play more often. Because right now, like, who is wide receiver 1? Like, someone could start at wide receiver tonight, but do they get the significant snaps that a wide receiver 1 would get? Because if not, then I don't care who starts the game tonight at wide receiver. I don't. That's like the Mahomes being able to get everyone involved is cool, but if you don't have a clear-cut number 1 wide receiver to help Travis Kelce lift his passing game up, I don't know. Well, what does it mean in the long run? Chillicothe, Missouri. Yes, it has been a long bye week. Wyoming. All right, Faith. With the Big 12 expanding, off topic, but I'm going to get into it. I've really gotten into hiking lately, and that region, like Utah, Wyoming, Nevada, like 5 years ago, I never cared for places like that, but now I'm like, I can understand people living there or visiting places like that. Like you can really appreciate the scenic views there. I would love to like do a hiking trip where the same weekend, like where the Jayhawks are visiting one of these teams in those areas. I'd love to see that. Gonna skip over some comments here, guys. Rock recently came back with that kicker from the Colts. The Rock came back with a kicker from the Colts. Oh yeah, Pat McAfee. That I did see. I didn't see it live. Which, by the way, I'm pissed that I completely didn't even see that coming, because College Game Day was at the same place as WWE SmackDown, and The Rock was there. It's like, man, how did I miss that? I saw it the next morning. That was awesome. That was really awesome. Yeah, unfortunately, that's kind of what The Rock does. Just sporadic appearances. There are rumors that he is going to fight Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. Oh, spoiler alert. Shit. Okay. All right. Well, don't report me, please. I believe anything Tyreek says about as much as I would Chief Alex saying he is a new man. Okay. Why in the hell don't we do the tush push? Because the Chiefs are afraid of giving the ball to Mahomes on a QB sneak. That's why. Which I disagree with. Like, Mahomes is big and tough. Like, come on, man. I hope so, Danny. I think you need a big game from Chris Jones tonight to win tonight. It's a Super Bowl rematch, so a lot of things need to go right, including Chris Jones, who obviously is one of the best players in the NFL. He had an interview about making his incentives. He wasn't positive. Kelce did? Okay, I didn't see that part of it. I know he was on the cover of another magazine, not GQ. I can't remember what it was, but he talked about the whole money thing, and it's like he even mentioned Tyreek Hill and said Tyreek Hill went and made 2 to 3 times more than I have, but I'd rather stay here and win championships. And with everything he's going through and the honest conversation he had about retirement in this interview, it's like his window's closing, and he probably wants one more to and go off into the sun. Like, if the Chiefs win a Super Bowl this year, I would bet money that Kelce retires. Yeah, not that I want that to happen, but I can see him doing that 100%. I agree with you, Joshua. Yeah, that's I think going to be a big one right there. And I know, again, a lot of casuals probably like focus on, quarterback and wide receivers and touchdowns, interceptions, that kind of thing. And yes, those things are important. But given how good both teams have with guys at the line of scrimmage, that's good. That's the kind of game it's going to be tonight, 100%. Yeah, I've seen a few of these comments here, Colby. Yeah, it's a Super Bowl rematch. They're good just as much as we are. So, and they've got the best record in the NFL. So it's not going to be easy. Not going to be easy. I suppose. Oh, Jesus Christ, man. Those things are like $500. I know someone that would probably give away something like that if they were in trouble. Oh man, I'm sorry. Like when I was a kid, I loved those belts. My dad got me like not the real like replica one, but got me like one of those plastic ones from Toys R Us. Man, I loved that thing as a kid. Now as like an adult, it's like I don't know if I even like want one of those. I remember going to a UFC event and a fan in the crowd had actually purchased the UFC belt. And as Demetrius Johnson, who was at the UFC at the time, he was the reigning flyweight champion at the time. As he's leaving, he's signed a couple of autographs and he signed that person's belt. I'm like, man, you just bought yourself a $500 belt, and one of the most dominant fighters in UFC history signed that belt. Good on you. Okay, I'll have to look it up. Nick Bolton is not. No, he is still on IR. I'm not very familiar with John Cena's work in Hollywood, so I gotta maybe get into that a little more. Yeah, AJ Brown's going to be a tough one here. That's going to be their biggest test all year. Philadelphia Eagles fans probably agree with this one. I mean, we all know they're going to complain about the slippery conditions, so who knows? Scott's asking, why is it when the offense was great, Andy Reid got all the credit and EB had nothing to do with it, but when they are bad, it's all Nagy? I don't agree with this, Scott. I've actually said before. In fact, I remember guys like RG3, Jeff Allen, like retired players have even spoke about this publicly. Whenever things do go right for the Chiefs offense, it's always, Mahomes, Kelsey, Andy Reid. And when things go wrong, people blamed Eric Bieniemy last year. This year, a lot of the blame is on Matt Nagy. I mean, that's the way I've seen it. So I don't know if I agree with that assessment 100%. Because I think Andy Reid's always been the play caller. I really do. Here's my thing to answer your question. Why is it that way? Why is the perception that way? I think because a lot of Chiefs fans think that Kelsey, Mahomes, and Reid, as awesome as they are, and they're all future Hall of Famers, I guess some Chiefs fans think these guys are above criticism, which I disagree with, man. I love Mahomes and Kelsey and everything they have done to turn this franchise from competitive to top tier championship level football team. I appreciate all of that. But when they have bad games, they need to be criticized for it. You don't need to turn your back on these guys and say that they should be gone from the team. But for that specific, like if the Chiefs have a bad game today, if Mahomes has a bad game today, then in our post-game show, I need to criticize Mahomes and talk about the bad game he had. Otherwise, I'd be doing the service to you guys. And so would anyone else that's doing a podcast or a blog or a talk radio or whatever the case may be. If you just want to sugarcoat Mahomes' bad game and say, well, he's done all this for us over the years, it's like, okay, but there's a post-game show, not a show about his body of work. I think fans, tend to forget that kind of thing sometimes. I'll read a couple more and get out of here. Chiefs are 5-0 with this officiating crew? I don't think so. This is the same official, if I'm not mistaken, unless it's something changed last second. This is the same official who penalized Chris Jones for that comment on Matt Ryan. So I don't think they're 5-0, Colby. Unless there was a change last minute with those guys. I saw a post saying that Andy worked every day with sharpening the plays on the bye. I'm glad. I'm with you, Natalie. I'm glad that's been going on, because if there was ever a bye week where in Chiefs history you got to figure things out, this is the one. And obviously, you like in the Todd Haley era, the bye week, you have everything to figure out. This is like the one where, if you do not fix those weaknesses, that could be the difference in not returning to the Super Bowl. So that's important. Inactives are out. Richie James, BJ Thompson, Mike Caliendo, Neil Farrell, and Malik Herring are inactive. 3 defensive linemen. Why do we have so many defensive linemen? I think the Neil Farrell one was in fear of Chris Jones not coming back. So yeah. I think some people are patiently waiting for Mike Pennell to get elevated. I'd be very curious, if the Chiefs do that with him. If Kelsey retires after this season, then him and Taylor can start a family. Oh. There we go. That's one reason to retire. I used to play wrestling on a trampoline with cardboard belts. What kid didn't? Like, even if you didn't have a trampoline, like, you still had some sort of a setup in your backyard, or you would wrestle with your brother at home and get yelled at by your parents. That was the case with me, my brother and I, for sure. I also had the action figures. Man, I actually figured out how to convert, like, those old, like, cameras, not like broadcast cameras. We're talking about like home cameras. I recently figured out how to transfer all of that stuff, but man, there's just so much tape from over the years. So I have all of them. I know how to transfer all of them, but it's just going to take forever to do. I know for a fact that at some point I would like film the WWE like toy ring I had, and I would just like play with the figures, and I would also like do the voice commenting as JR and Jerry the King Lawler. That might be something worth uploading one of these days. 30-20. You're definitely taking the over there. So am I. I'm taking the over. Yes, keep commenting with those eagle emojis. It's funny because last year, when I had that man cave video that went viral, every week it was Jaguars fans posting. They're like, "Oh, go Jags!" And then the following week it was Bengals fans saying, "Who day? You're gonna lose." And then after that, it was Eagles fans saying, "Fly, Eagles, fly! You're gonna lose in that man," and cry in that man cave. It's like none of those things happened. None of those things happened. Kevin says never take the over on Chiefs games. Yeah. Oh boy. Yeah. Hey man, they're helping out with the engagement. By the way, people are like, why do you not block trolls? Let me just address this for a moment here, because I get this a lot. Why would I? I get racist comments on here, and I don't even block those comments. You want to come on my page and comment and click the laugh emoji? You're doing me a favor. I don't care. Like, please keep doing more of that. And by the way, the people who are like, "Oh, this shows up, your Raiders or your Bengals posts show up in my feed." Yeah, because the algorithm goes off what you comment. So the more you comment on my page when you're not forced to, yeah, Facebook's gonna keep showing you my stuff, even if none of your friends share it, and if you don't follow me. So please keep commenting on my stuff. I love it. I love when people complain about this. I got a comment the other day. Someone said, "I don't know how to unfollow you. Can you please block me?" It's like, how do you not know how to unfollow someone? I love when people are like, "Hey, I'm unfollowing you." Why are you telling me? Like, this is like contacting an ex-girlfriend of mine who's dating someone else and be like, "Well, I'm with someone else now." Like, what are you doing? Come on. All right. We are definitely getting way off topic here for a pregame live chat. A big game tonight. All right. You guys get out of here. Go grill. Go make yourself your favorite meal, because it is Monday Night Football. We'll be back at halftime to do our halftime live stream. And then after the game, we'll be doing the Chiefs Zone podcast live. We'll be recapping the game. By the way, because of the holiday week, tomorrow I'll be doing the Chiefs and Raiders pregame podcast tomorrow night, 7 p.m. live on Facebook and on YouTube. So stay tuned for that. Appreciate all of you guys. This was a really good pregame live chat. So thank you, all of you guys. Shout out to all of you. Air horns for all of you guys. I will talk to you guys at halftime. Enjoy the game. Take care.